Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Doug Geiser Show, brought to you by the Ashland University Journalism and Digital Media Department. I'm Cade Krakis, and today I'm joined by head coach of the Eagle football team, Doug Geiser. Coach, thanks for sitting down with me here today.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Coach, when looking back at these past 2 weeks that have gone by, I know the hope was to bounce back in week 2 against this strong Ferris State squad, but ultimately the outcome did not go in your guys' favor. How are you guys feeling?
Well, you're obviously a little wounded every time you come home with a loss. And so more than anything else, there was frustration as we met with the team yesterday. We let them off the hook. Both of the first 2 weeks we're playing top 10 teams. We're ahead in the fourth quarter. We didn't finish. Now it's a credit to those teams as well, but we did not do the things execution-wise at the end of the game to come away with a W.
Yeah, and when you guys went back into film, what were some things that stood out to you?
We gave up too many easy plays in the second half, plays that aren't us. The 2 long pass plays really hurt. We weren't able to put ourselves in early down situations to get to third and short. So we didn't take care of being efficient on first or second down. It's probably the better way to put it. So in those games, we were able to do that stuff in the first half. The second half, they made some adjustments. We made some adjustments. They ultimately made one more than we did, and so credit to them in that respect.
And when taking a look at the locker room after 2 contests and 2 losses, how do you guys keep your heads high?
Well, more than anything, we break the season up into 4 quarters, and our first quarter of the season, so to speak, was against 2 top 10 teams. And so we said, hey, after today, we look at the tape, you make your corrections, you turn the page. And that's the end of the first quarter. Hey, we're 0-2 right now. As Bill Parcells said, you are what your record says you are. Now it's on to the conference. And oh, by the way, it's against our rival, Hillsdale College. We play for the traveling trophy. So we cannot dwell on Ferris. We can't worry about the things we can't control. Don't let Ferris beat you 2 weeks in a row by keeping your focus on them, because that won't help anything. By the way, it's very disrespectful to our opponent, Hillsdale, who's a very good football team.
Yeah, and you talked about this past game for the Bulldogs a little bit. When you guys look back at it, what did you plan for that worked? I mean, obviously the punt block team continues to be lights out every week.
Our special teams continue to play very inspired, and our coaching staff on special teams is doing a tremendous job of putting a game plan together that our kids can execute. Our kids are working it, they're studying it, they're believing in it, and they're playing inspired football right now. We need to take more advantage of that. Other than that, I thought offensively we started to find a little more who we are, figuring out what our guys can do, what Trevor can do. He started building a great relationship with Dez and with Gent. We're able to hit some verticals in the pass game, which he's able to hit with his arm. So we made some strides there. I thought at times we were able to run the ball a little bit better, but not consistently enough to be able to finish the game in the second half. Defensively, I thought we continued to play very well in the front 7. Very well against the run. Notwithstanding their quarterback run there in the second half when they made an adjustment. But we got a lot of things to build on. Yeah,
when you take a look at some standout players on both sides of the ball, who were they this week?
Jackson Myers, once again. Jackson Myers is playing as well at the Mike linebacker position as we've had in a number of years. We kind of kidded in the team meeting yesterday, Mike who, in reference to Ayers, but he is playing at a very high level. I thought Deeb Alawan continues to play at a high level. He's kind of that nerve. He's like the Tasmanian devil. He actually got the first punt block this past week and knocked their protector back into the punter. So both those guys continue to give us inspired play. We need to build upon that and to continue to be able to feature them in different roles.
And then what should we expect in this coming contest against Hillsdale?
With Hillsdale, the Keith Otterbein team, they are very well coached. They're sound in what they do. They're a big football team, kind of rivaling Ferris State in a lot of respects with their size. Very sound scheme. They play serious football on offense. You're going to have to be physical with them once again. If you don't stop the run, they're going to run it all day long. They have one of the best tailbacks in the league in Michael Herzog. Defensively, they're sound in what they do. They don't take a lot of chances, but it's almost like a boa constrictor. If you're going to get them, you better get them early, because once they figure out what you're doing and their guys figure out what they're doing, they're able to adjust to it. And it's kind of like the boa constrictor squeezing the big plays away as the game progresses.
And obviously the big storyline is the switch from non-conference play to conference play. What's that looking like for you guys?
Well, it's the second quarter. And as we talked to the team yesterday, all of our goals we set before the season are still in place. We just have to go out and execute now. The biggest thing for us is we got to stick together as a football team. It's very hard. Every time you lose a football game, it eats away at trust. And so we talked a whole lot yesterday about making sure you're not splintering. Don't be a distraction. Don't let your discipline lag. Continue to trust in your brother, continue to trust in your teammate, and continue to work more than anything else. If we stick together, we still have a chance. If we don't stick together, then we're going to face some more adversity.
In week 1, you guys had that rematch against IUP. Week 2 against the #1 team in the country. Now week 3, you're battling for the traveling trophy. I mean, talk about 3 high-stress competitions.
That it is, but as we talk with our guys, I think we mentioned it last week, that's why guys come to Ashland to play. To be in high-profile games, to be involved in a trophy game with Hillsdale, which this was the very first trophy game in Division II football. This rivalry and the trophy was set in place in 1970 by Fred Martinelli, who was our longtime head coach and our AD, and I forget the gentleman's first name, but McElvoy was the athletic director at Hillsdale. They got together in 1970, and it was 2 schools with similar mission statements, almost sister schools in a lot of respects. Recruit a lot of the same guys, have a lot of the same values and beliefs, and so they decided to play for that first trophy in Division II. And we played 46 games since then, and it's been a very, very heated rivalry. And with the exception of 1981 to 1989, it's been back and forth every single year. And you hate to be cliche when you're talking about these things. It is proverbially, hey, you throw the records out the window. Each team is going to get the best the other team has in that game. So it should be very, very heated, and it should be a fun atmosphere on Saturday.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you sitting down with me. We've got to take a look at another member of your team now. We'll take a look and talk to wideout Desmond Libertus, and that'll be coming up here momentarily. We'll dive in depth into what happened this past game with him, what it was like to play against his former team, and what he saw unfold on the offensive side of the ball. You're watching The Doug Geiser Show on AUTV. Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show. Now I'm joined by wideout and special teams threat Desmond Libertus. Thank you for joining me here today.
I appreciate you having me.
Great game this past weekend, by the way. But for starters, some might not know, what is it like going up against a former team like Ferris State?
I would say, it was a great experience. I know a lot of those guys, and I play with them, so it was good just having that, on the field, like knowing who I'm going against, and having that friendly, not so friendly competition, I guess. But yeah, overall I had a fun game. Wish we could have turned out another way and got the dub, but it ended how it ended. So we just got to move on, focus on Hillsdale next week.
Yeah, and you were able to find yourself in the mix for a lot of massive plays and touchdowns for the Eagles. How did those come to fruition for you?
I would say definitely just the game plan for the week. Trevor did a great job being able to get it out, timing wise and everything, and I feel like we were just on the same page on that in that factor. Other than that, just like I said, preparation this week. We've been practicing those plays all week, knowing that they should be there, and successfully calculating the plays, I would say.
Yeah, and you guys took a loss in week 1, and then week 2, the same thing. How do you keep the locker rooms head high?
Honestly, I would say it goes a lot towards the accountability captains and the captains of the team, and some of the older guys, just, being able to keep everybody together and, not letting everybody dwell on the past. We got to move on, move forward, and just keep getting better and keep learning from each week. So I think everybody's mentally prepared to take on this new challenge next week.
Yeah, and you're a pretty multifaceted player in the special team side of things. You're lethal, and you're able to catch passes, and also we had that big play from you week 1. It was kind of like a jet sweep where you dove into the end zone. What makes you this good in those sort of scenarios?
Once again, I would say pretty much it's just the coaching aspect of that. They're putting me in positions to make plays, and I'm just executing what they're putting in for the week of the game plan. So I guess it goes out to them, really, and everybody else on the offense blocking and everything to make that happen. So
Yeah. And when you take a look at the connection between you and Trevor Bazinski, I mean, what has that been like to formulate throughout the season?
You know, at first, you know, it's a little different, you know, coming from a different school, transferring here, and then, you know, getting yourself locked in with another quarterback is something that, you know, takes time. You know, first week, you know, we connected on a couple passing catches. You know, this week connected on a few more, and I think that's just something that just builds over time, I guess. And, you know, just working every day in practice and catching and from him every day, just something that's going to make us better and whatnot. So
Yeah. And then going up against Hillsdale, what's the locker room like? How are you guys feeling?
I think everybody's feeling good. You know, tough loss, but like I said, can't dwell on it. You know, everybody got to continue to play and come back next week better, learn from our mistakes, and execute everything next week we need to do to win. And once again, this is starting conference play, so you know, everything's still out in front of us for our taking. So I think everyone's going to come ready to go.
Well, I appreciate you sitting down with me here today, and good luck against Hillsdale.
I appreciate that. Thank you for your time.
Of course. When we return, we will check in with Evan Berberi to dive deeper into the play of the wide receivers this past week against Ferris, as well as an exploration into the role of being Director of Football Operations. You're watching The Doug Geiser Show on AUTV. Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show. Now I'm alongside Coach Berberi. Coach, the wide receiver corps made some big plays this past weekend against Ferris State. What really contributed to their success?
I think it's just the process as we talk about with, and like kind of Des talked about earlier, and Coach Geiser, the repetition with Trevor, and just playing guys in the right spots and making big plays and executing the plays as well.
Yeah, moving forward, how do you want to see them continue this momentum that they've started to garner?
You know, build off of it. You know, just you got a sample size of what, you know, I know what they can do, but also build off that success as, you know, we get into Hillsdale, then as we move on throughout the rest of the year. But just don't be satisfied with just one game. Just keep stacking days and keep doing your 111th as you move forward.
Is there any specific players that stood out to you this past week?
You know, a guy that had a great camp and had a good first game and really well was Jen Joseph. And he came here last spring, and we knew the potential he had, but really showed out to what he could do. And, you know, Des did some nice things. Of course, he had a big game. Jake made some nice plays, especially, you know, and also to kind of go with Jake and Tyler Davis blocking guys in the last touchdown we scored was crucial on the perimeter. And then guys like Tony Panunzio too, you know, doing what they're supposed to do in their job. So.
Yeah, you obviously had players like Joseph and Libertus really come into fruition in that contest and be phenomenal. Mm-hmm. But when you take a look at players like Jake McLaughlin and Panuzio, like you just said, how do you get them more involved?
Well, you know, Jake's kind of like a hybrid type guy where he can play in a tight bunch and be with and, you know, just doing what they're best at with Tony too. I don't want to put a kid in a situation where he's going to fail. So I think the more situations we put where they succeed will be better for us.
And when shifting gears to more of the other side of things and pausing for a moment, what does it actually mean to be the Director of Football Operations?
Well, I'm the guy that makes all the plans and kind of, you know, right-hand man to the head coach and make sure everything's perfect when we travel. And even for home games too, but most likely when we travel with that as well. I'm a perfectionist, so I want everything to go perfect. We just got to make sure we, as a Coach Rose standpoint, handle the chaos if something doesn't go well. But, you know, hopefully, our first trip was successful, everything went well, so hopefully the next road trip we do is smooth.
Yeah, so what would a day-to-day operation be like in that role?
On a road trip?
Yeah.
So, you know, what time we're eating, you know, if we're overnight, what time we're leaving Friday, what time we're getting up, you know, if we're going to walk through at the stadium, if we're not, you know, they're going to let us walk through at the stadium, we're going to eat, leave the hotel, make sure we have a post-game meal. That's always one that always gets me. Hopefully they deliver their own time. I always think about that sometimes, make sure that's the key. So, yeah, but everything other than that, it's kind of straightforward stuff. Just make sure everyone does their job on that part too. Hopefully Jimmy John says they're 111th. Make sure it gets there on time. So.
Yeah, so now back to the task at hand. Coming up this week, you guys take on Hillsdale. I mean, how do you guys get the locker room ready for this?
I think our guys are ready to go. Kind of what Coach Geiser said after the game. We played the #1 team in the country. We went toe-to-toe with them, didn't finish. Now flip the page, now you're playing a rival, for a trophy. If that can't get you fired up and ready to play, I don't know what will. And also, too, we didn't finish the first 2 weeks. We need to get a W, and that's the goal moving forward. And, it's just we have to get that done and execute the plan we put forward for our kids.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you sitting down, and good luck against Hillsdale.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Now it's time to wrap up the show with Coach Geiser as we take a look at the current season standings and the rest of the schedule. Coach will join us after these brief messages. You're watching the Doug Geiser Show on AUTV. Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show here on AUTV. Coach, it's been great to talk to you here today and your team, but before we go, let's take a look at the current standings and what we can expect in the coming weeks. Okay. First off, as we take a look at the current standings of the Great Midwest Athletic Conference, are there any takeaways you have from some of the other teams in the conference as we gear up for conference play to begin this coming week?
Well, it looks like Tiffin has gotten off to their usual fast start. And they're one of the best teams in the league, and they're showing it this year. Looks like Walsh has gotten off to a tremendous start as well. So they must be playing some high level of football.
And now taking a look at the schedule, the usual model is take it week by week. And how are you feeling coming up against this contest against Hillsdale and then the other teams further down the line?
Well, our focus is on Hillsdale and Hillsdale alone. It is a rivalry game. You need to respect the rivalry. And they played a tremendous game against us last year, and they took the trophy back. So that's been our focus. We're playing for a trophy. We need to bring the trophy back to Jack Miller Stadium and the Troop Center. So that's our primary focus. It'll be Hillsdale all week.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you sitting down with me here today. Any final thoughts for the audience?
Hey, if you want to see a very, very hard-hitting, very intense game from two brothers this next week, I mean, this game against Hillsdale is not a blood rivalry. It's basically it's a game against two brothers. They love each other at the end, but during that game, they're going to fight, scratch, and claw, and give each other their best. And so it'll be a tremendous game here at Jack Miller Stadium.
Well, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
That was today's episode of the Doug Geiser Show. With the Eagles falling to the Ferris State Bulldogs this past weekend, 38-28, they look to take on the Hillsdale College Chargers to kick off conference play at Jack Miller Stadium. The outing is set for Saturday, September 16th, with kickoff set for 7 p.m. Tune into the game on 88.9 WRDL to listen 15 minutes before the kickoff for the pregame show, or watch live on the JDM streaming channel with the game brought to you by the Ashland University Journalism and Digital Media Department. You can also watch repeats of the game on AUTV and the Bally Sports Great Lakes channel. I'm Cade Krackus, and thank you for tuning into the Doug Geiser Show right here on AUTV.